Hi everyone, it's Carrie here, and you are watching another How to Be an Artist Creator profile. And I'm especially happy today to introduce you to my friend and today's guest, Holly Dean. Holly Dean is a mixed media artist as well as an art educator, and she has her own online community called Artsy Life. And we're going to talk about that as well as some cool projects she has going on, as well as this bigger topic that really drives the reason she's here today and the work that she does is that adults need more play. So thank you, Holly, for being here.
Thank you for inviting me, Carrie. It's great.
I'm really happy you could join us today. So can you first tell us, was there a moment in your life where you kind of had this aha about the arts being something you are connected to? Was it this kind of slow developed growth in your life? How did you come to realize the arts were this passion for you?
Well, it's funny, really, because I grew up with a mom who did all kinds of artsy things all the time. I mean, we were making things. She had this fabulous book we'd look at, and then we'd look something up and we'd make something. I was in nature. I was doing all this wonderful thing connected to, the earth and connected to crayons and all kinds of stuff like this. I never realized that that was the arts. I just thought that was a way of life. And in high school, I actually took art in grade 9, and I was so put off by the teacher that I quit, and I never took art again. So it was maybe when I was 21 and I started doing calligraphy, I realized, oh, this is doing the arts. I'm passionate about it. I thought arts were technical things that I wasn't good at. It was so strange. So the realization would have been, when I started doing calligraphy and realized that, oh, I've always been artsy, but this is a different way to look at it.
I love how you point out that it's something that often as children we just have a natural interest in, and we don't even label it as a passion or the arts or anything. It's just this thing that we do, and yet for some reason we seem to separate from that as we get older.
Yeah.
How did you come back to the calligraphy or find at 21? Remind me again. You were.
I took a course in calligraphy. Actually, my husband at the time said, you love to write. Look at you're copying your letters and stuff like that. He said, why don't you take calligraphy? And he thought in the course, and that was it.
Yeah. And again, too, this idea that sometimes you have teachers who actually hold you back and give you these false definitions of what art is or isn't. And then it colors the way you see it until you do take a chance and try another class or get exposed to your interest in a new and different way.
Yes, definitely.
So can you describe your art to us?
Yes, it's, you can see a little bit of it behind me here. I'm going to show you one, actually. That's one of my favorite ones.
Yeah.
So very much, I love color and texture, and I like to start by just playing and see what happens. So it's about getting all the color and the shapes and lines onto the piece that I'm working on, and then working with it to see where it goes. And I love to use collage as well to sort of tell a story. So it ends up being a bit of a mystery. Even though it's playful, there's always so many layers that you discover things in it. There's a bit of a story.
For those of you who haven't heard me talk about or talk with Holly before, those people inside the circle have some bonus content with Holly, and she does a demonstration of one of her mixed media works. And a couple of the women in our group were like, why did she cover some of these layers? They're so pretty. Why'd she keep going? So I think that just speaks to her process of these layers and these ideas of the mystery in the work too.
Yes, definitely.
So tell us about your studio space.
I'm lucky. I've got a huge studio space. It's I share it with my husband, so it's half the space, but it's still 10 feet by 17 feet. I have an 18-foot ceiling, so my ideas can just soar. It's beautiful. Right now, even though it's large, it's cluttered because it's always happening. Things are moving around. I use all IKEA stuff to store things. So even the CD racks, I turn them on their sides and use them as shelving, so they're
Smart.
they work great. I have rolling units with flat drawers from IKEA that I keep all my stuff in. And I have the tables from IKEA with legs that you screw on and off. So the tables can be in here or they can be out of here.
Oh,
Because
that's
one of
nice.
the things, yeah, it is. And one of the things, so I can teach or I can work or I can dance.
Yes, dance. So let's transition into this discussion about play. You run a community called Artsy Life. So why don't we start there? How did you come to grow that community?
Well, I was fascinated because when I was doing, I do a lot of mixed media art teaching, so workshops. And whenever I do that, the group that I'm teaching has this fabulous creative energy that happens. And I noticed that it's not just their paintings that are transforming, it's them. And there's so much more to making art than just making a piece of art. It goes really deep and speaks to who you are. So I wanted to be able to do that for more people, and I wanted to have a group where we could be together exploring this sort of thing, watching transformation happen. And and the reason I started Good Morning Artsy Life is that we could all gather there. It's a safe online space. It's for women. I mean, it's open to men too, but I find it's women that I attract. And it's just this fabulous place where you can share your ideas and you know that people are going to be excited about them. They're not going to be saying, oh, that's silly or whatever it is. They're going to be very supportive, and it's a place to grow. It's also a place to work through anything that you might be coming up against through doing art exercises.
Yeah, that's great. So one of the exercises or themes coming up actually is procrastination, right? Yeah.
Yes.
So each month, right now, she's going to have a theme that kind of guides some of the activities and discussion for people to help them, and it's determined by the people in the community and what they're seeking, and so it really is this kind of shared space for conversation.
Yes.
Yeah, it's great. So let's talk about play, because while Artsy Life is this kind of artist community for people to make space for themselves and feel heard and seen with their art, we haven't really touched on the element of play and how important it is to you in your community and what you're communicating to the larger public.
Yes, and it is so important. I mean, I've learned that by connecting to your childlike wonder and feeling that feeling we used to feel as kids, right? You get so excited about something. And you can only do that when you allow yourself to play and experiment and explore. And we just don't have that in our lives because we're taught from grade 4 on, stop daydreaming. It's time to get serious, grow up, this grow up. And as grown-ups, it's very hard for us to step into play because we see it as a waste of time or something that we're going to be ridiculed for. And yet it is the thing that gives us a way to do creative problem solving, a way to step away from stress and find out what it is that we really want to do with our lives. And even if it's a few minutes a day, oh my God, it makes such a difference.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny you say that as adults, sometimes we can have shame or insecurity around how we like to play. So I've admitted this in the community before that I love to blow bubbles. Like I have no idea why. It's just part of that childhood connection for me. So I actually had someone mail me some of the like fun shaped, like the little wands that you can use.
Yes.
But I have been embarrassed in my neighborhood to go out and use them because I do feel that perceived judgment that I might face, or the what is up with this chick, as they start seeing bubbles just pour off my balcony. So why do you think we feel that way? And what is something we might be able to do to help us overcome that?
Well, I think we feel that way because we've had that happen to us. It's a past experience that maybe we did something playful, even as a child, but not a really young child. And people have just said, oh, don't be silly. And it can be something that simple where someone has stopped you and made you feel ashamed for doing something. And it's in our past. It may not even be something we can remember, but it just takes over. And that's the feeling we have, especially if we're in the workforce now and we're working full time and we can't be silly because everything's very serious and everything is, money is the bottom line, and you don't think about creativity. Um, and the way we can get around that is by just, you have to stop. You have to be aware of what is happening. And you have to just kind of take some time to realize, you know what? I have this inner child inside of me who could show me so much, and I need to reconnect, and I need to let them show me how to play again and not care what people think, or surround myself with people where I feel safe that I can do this.
Yeah. So baby steps, pick a
Yeah.
space that's very safe and then progressively branch out. I think that's a really good idea. How do you play?
I like to dance. I like to dance in the studio, and I love music. And lately, I've tuned into Sirius, so I'm listening to a specific channel that's got all the songs from the '70s. So it takes me back to a certain time, and I'm just dancing away and feeling young again. I call myself the expert on growing young because I'm really connecting to that. But it's also through art. It's also through, I love to doodle. I love to just write letters for the sake of writing letters because I love calligraphy. I love to splash paint and color. And I've had to teach myself to even splash the paint, right? I'm so neat. People would come to my studio and say, "Oh, but where do you paint?" And I say, "Right here." And I say, "Okay, my goal is to splash paint around and let
Yeah,
go." I think all of us are fighting that. So those are some of the things I do.
that's great. You make a point about art for art's sake in this conversation. So you like to doodle. When we use the word doodle, very, very little goal-oriented terminology is associated with doodle, right? And I do find, especially in our community here in Artist Strong, that there are a lot of people who feel like their art is not worthy or not justified for using their time or money or any kind of resource unless they're doing something with it. So could you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, and we get into that trap. I'm in it a lot myself. It's something I'm working on breaking out of. But yes, if I do some art, it has to be something that's going to be really good. I'll be able to sell. I can't just play. And it's it's really through doing the doodles, which means too you can fit it in because you could be thinking, all right, you could be made to procrastinate because you think I'm going to do a piece of art, but I have so much expectation around that I can't really get started. What if you just were cooking dinner and had a piece of paper beside you and a pen and started doodling? There's always time then. You can fit that into your day. You can do these little amounts of things. And when you're doing that kind of thing, it gets your brain into a space where it does create a problem solving for you for anything, but especially about maybe this painting you want to do. It allows you to free up and allows you to just do something, see what happens. And I did this the other day, actually. Carrie, you and I went away to a friend's place and spent an afternoon making art. All I did was bring my sketchbook and some pens. I limited myself purposefully. And then that's all I did. I doodled all afternoon and it just felt so good. There was no expectation. There was no outcome that had to happen. It was just, we talked, we enjoyed each other's company, and I just doodled. And that was so relaxing and rejuvenating.
Yeah. There's so much value in the act of making because it is a form of play. It helps us reach flow state. It helps us disconnect from kind of all the other things in our life that we worry about and kind of turns off that verbal part of our brain and can really help us be happier and healthier, which I can't imagine there being a more worthwhile reason to make this time for kind of play or directionless art making. And despite us saying this, and I know people who watch this are nodding their heads like, yes, this is totally true. I know that there are still some people who won't give themselves permission to take that next step. Can you challenge them in some way to test their boundaries here, give them kind of small activity or tip to get them started?
Yes, well, I do challenge you. I challenge you to do 15 minutes a day of play. That's it. So, I mean, it can be as simple as doing a doodle while you're making dinner. You can take your iPhone camera, because you have your phone with you, or whatever kind of phone you have. Take a look down where you, if you're sitting, just look down, take a picture of your knees. I mean, this is the kind of thing where you can even use that as a compositional thing. You look down and go, oh, I like these shapes and angles there in the pattern of the leggings I'm wearing. Or have you ever taken a photograph by accident of something and you think, oh, that's so cool, and you don't even know what it is?
Yeah.
And I mean, just making time to do that every day, and only 15 minutes. And I think the other thing with that challenge, is to record what you did, and then how you felt while you did it and after. And I mean, that could take less than a minute. So you're not journaling about it all. You can if you want, but just track this and see how it changes how you are in your day.
That's a really good point, because for a lot of people, they want to have some kind of measurable evidence that it's worth their time, which goes against the whole nature of play. But let's go there, right? I like, my nature is very A-type and organized, so I could see, well, let's test this theory then. Let's give myself play and record my emotions before and after for a month or 2 weeks, and see what my first and my last little video or little journal of 2 sentences a day looks like. And am I seeing a change in myself or my attitude? You could even have a loved one be checking in, someone you trust who you feel could observe things and kind of give you an honest perspective. They might see a shift in you that you don't. I think there's so much value to be said for having some moments of reflection, and that they don't have to be like journal 500 pages. Like, give yourself a couple sentences or a little video where you just record yourself. You don't have to necessarily share that with anyone, but then you have this documentation at like easily available. It's on my phone. I just tried to grab, and it's a here. But so then you guys can see that there is this measurable shift in the way you're thinking or looking at the world around you.
Yes. Yes, it's so important, because we need to be more aware. And sometimes we don't even know that this is happening to us, that we don't have this play in our day. We think, oh, well, I laughed and joked with somebody earlier, but that's not enough.
Yeah. Someone in the comments here, Jean said, my granddaughter's with me till Sunday. We played with clay today. I think that's actually a really good point, that sometimes we feel more permission to play as adults if we have other people that we make play dates with, whether they're little or the same age as we are. What do you think?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, if you're spending time with your grandkids or your kids or whoever it is, or a friend that you're really close with, what better way than, this is an excuse to do something fun and silly together. And yeah, it makes it easier when it's not just you. It's then you feel like you're guiding them, because you think this is so important for them. So why isn't it important for you?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Well said. What do you think the consequences are for people who ignore their desire to play?
Well, I think it's a dangerous road, because you really do get caught up in your head then. You're always in your head. You're always thinking about things and rationalizing things. You're maybe not seeing your overall picture of how you're living your life. And you can easily be depressed and not even know. There's so many things. I mean, I've gone through a lot of things in my life that I will be sharing in tomorrow's webinar. And you have to realize that you're made up of more than just, your thoughts. You are a human being. Human beings are designed to be childlike throughout their lives, despite how society has taught us. And I've heard it said, it's Ashley Montague is the author of a book about neoteny, it's called, which is, it's childlike play and wonder. And he talks about what you want to do is grow as old as possible and die very young. that's
great.
That's the key to the best life you could live.
Oh, I love it. That's so nice. So we've talked about challenging people in this community to 15 minutes of play. And we've had some ideas for play. So it could be making art, it could be dancing, it could be blowing bubbles. Can we offer some more parameters around what play means in terms of, I could see some people being like, well, I have an art project to work on, so I'll play for 15 minutes.
Yes, and I mean, maybe that is play for you as long as it is, but maybe instead of do something different with that art project. If it's just finishing it, instead of doing that, look at it and think of it in a different way. How would you describe it if you wrote about it? That could be playful. Pretend you're talking to somebody and tell them what it is you're doing. Figure out a way to get some childlike wonder into that piece. Is it a serious piece? Or does it have to be a serious piece? Look at it in different ways. And yeah, I mean, the parameters are pretty loose, really. Think about what brings you joy, what makes you really happy, and go with that. And it might be something that just pops into your head and seems really silly. Do it for sure then.
Yeah, that's a great point, that something pops into your head and you're immediately like, can't do it. No, that's probably a kind of play you're seeking in your life. I can
Yes.
totally see that.
Yeah.
So you do have an upcoming workshop that people can take that's completely free. And if you're watching this live, the workshop's actually tomorrow. So Holly, tell us more about it.
Yeah, it's tomorrow at noon, and it's going to be it's talking about it's called Live Artsy, Play and Grow Young. It's going into what we do. So maybe you shut down your childlike wonder, or you can't see a way forward. Sorry, the fly. Or you don't put yourself first. That's another biggie, right? Where we feel shame around being selfish. Or we're afraid of making change in our lives. So this is what I'm going to be talking about tomorrow, and how that can be overcome through play.
That sounds great. We'll make sure you guys that the link for that workshop is below this video once we're done with our live conversation here. So if you can join Holly tomorrow, you have that chance. And where can, we still have a few more questions, but I'd like to ask too, for people watching this as a replay, where can people find you, Holly, if they want to learn more about you and your work?
Well, there's www.hollydean.com. There's I have a play group too on Facebook. There's Artsy Life Possibilities. If you just go into Facebook and type in Artsy Life Possibilities, it will come up. You can go and look at what's happening in the group, and you can join it. Yeah, and so those are the online places other than the membership that I'm running.
Okay, great. We'll make sure the links to all those things are below this video too.
Yeah.
So before I ask the last question, I think maybe we should give each other some play homework, right? If we're talking about this idea of play and how important it is, and we both talk about this quite a bit in our own communities, it's time to kind of own that a bit ourselves. So what's a play activity you've been wanting to do that maybe you've been avoiding or you haven't really given yourself time to do?
I would say taking the dogs to the dog park.
Oh, there you go.
I did it once last week.
Okay.
And then I thought, oh, I'm going to do this, 2 or 3 times a week. And then another week has gone by. And that is so much fun. I watch them run. I throw the ball for Rook, one of my dogs. And I get so much pleasure out of watching their joy. And it just makes me feel great. And I need to do that more. So I am going to do that. I'm going to take them to the dog park.
That's great. So I guess I should ask myself that same question too. I mentioned blowing bubbles earlier in the start of that, and that is something that I've been thinking about doing, and I meant to do in this winter here in Ottawa, because I was reading about how bubbles can freeze, especially when it's really, really cold as it gets here in Canada. So maybe I'll take out those wands that I was gifted and do some bubble blowing in my, I have a digital vacation coming up. I'm taking some time away from the internet, so that'll be a good time for me to play with some bubbles.
That's fantastic. And put some pictures on Facebook so we can see it. And I'll do the same with the dogs.
That's great.
So we're great.
Go ahead, say.
So sharing what you're doing is also great, and it helps to inspire others to do that.
Exactly. It holds us accountable, but it also starts setting this tone for all of us that play is important and invaluable. So we challenge all of you guys watching. You should have some kind of play activity that you've been secretly thinking about, or you know you've been wanting to do and you haven't made time for. We'd love for you to post it in our Facebook groups or tag us over on Instagram.
Yeah.
I'm at Artist Strong, and you're Holly. Are you at Holly Dean?
Yes, I'm also at liveartsy.life.
Okay, liveartsy.life. So be sure to tag us and share, or in the comments below, give us that answer. Tell us what you're going to do to engage in some play in the next 2 weeks so that we can help you stay accountable.
Yes.
So, Holly, let's do that last question then. Thank you so much for being here and sharing your wisdom with us and starting this really important conversation.
Yes.
I end every interview with the question, what does it mean to you to be an artist?
Well, it means to me the ability to grow young, the ability to feel that childlike wonder again and get so excited about things. It makes me happy. It makes me healthy. I realize that everybody has this ability, but as artists, we've already kind of taken a step into claiming that for ourselves, claiming that magic.
That sounds wonderful. Thank you, Holly. That's a great place to end. Thank you guys for being here and for taking the time to join Holly and I in this important conversation. And we will see you in a future How to Be an Artist Creator profile. Thank you again, Holly. Bye,
Thank
everyone.
you so much, Carrie. Bye-bye.